So going into the access policies again, if we look at the cluster group here that we were just viewing with all those different clusters in it, right? So we have our AKS, GKE, our on-prem vSphere clusters. You can see we've got a couple of different policies that have already been applied. And in this case, they're inherited from our organization. And what you can see here at the very top is one that's actually automatically added. It's the ability for our IT teams to audit our clusters. So you can see how we achieve that internally. And then you can see we've got these other roles here that you can assign to different groupings within our cloud org. In our case, these are pretty relaxed. If this was an actual production environment, not my demo environment, I'd probably have this a little bit more tightened down to where most people had, cluster view, but only a few people had the ability to actually edit clusters. So scrolling down, if we look at direct access policies, right, these are ones that we can apply directly to a cluster group. We can apply them directly to a cluster, and we can scope these to, let me just click and show you. So we can scope these to a user, we can scope it to a group, or even a Kubernetes service account, right? So back to my example of we're trying to set up a service account for monitoring for this entire cluster group. We can easily do that right from here, right? And then if we look at our list of roles here, so these are where you can start seeing all the different roles that apply to this view or this context. And so we can create these custom roles if we wanted to that are very fine-tuned to do, essentially what you need them to, right? So if we just look at the roles tab here, we can actually see all these different roles, and you can see under the type here which ones are custom. And so what you can do is you can start from one of these predefined ones, and you can start fine-tuning it for your needs, right? So you can choose where this role would appear. And then you can go ahead and choose additionally what permissions that they have within Tanzu Mission Control.
Yeah, so if we go back to the access tab there, Corey, I think the best thing to walk away with is you have a lot of tools in your tool belt. You can go to your central identity provider. You then can, through the hierarchy that we're seeing now, we have two types of organization. We have groups of clusters with cluster groups on the left, and then we have groups of namespaces, which are workspaces are on the right. You go down a level and you can now see how do you want to apply, and these are cascading in how they apply. So you could have a dev team that has a set of dev resources or a group of clusters, and if the developer is in the OU group in Active Directory, for example, and then OU group is granted direct access, they will have access to all the clusters that get provisioned. You then can decide what are they authorized to do on the left, so that role. And so that goes back to the example we talked about earlier. Maybe in development, as an environment, you give them higher level permissions so that they can deploy Kubernetes operators, as an example, which requires cluster admin, because that is a cluster-wide implementation. But in production, you limit it down. And so developer does not have cluster admin rights, but they have namespace admin rights. And so only the platform team have cluster admin. The key here is you have choice. You have flexibility in how you deploy these different policies, and this supports any Kubernetes cluster as long as it's conformant.